Mesdames, Mesdemoiselles, Messieurs, bienvenue de nouveau pour cette matinée de la deuxième journée du World Power to X Summit. Nous avons vu ce matin à quel point la production et le développement de l'industrie autour de l'hydrogène vert étaient stratégiques, à quel point de nombreux États, dont le Maroc, y prêtent une attention très pointue, particulière, et à quel point également il était vital pour le développement de l'hydrogène vert d'envisager des leviers de coopération, que ce soit pour sa production, que ce soit pour son transport, pour sa distribution, et également l'importance des politiques publiques en la matière avec de l'appui en termes d'accompagnement, d'investissement pour rendre l'énergie issue de l'hydrogène vert concurrentielle et rentable. Nous allons voir maintenant de quelle manière est-ce que l'hydrogène vert pourra redessiner d'une certaine façon la transition énergétique à laquelle nous sommes en train d'assister, que nous vivons au quotidien et qui constituera notre futur dans la perspective de la préservation de l'environnement, de la limitation des émissions de gaz à effet de serre et de la lutte contre le changement climatique. Et pour ce faire, je vais appeler à mes côtés, please welcome Dr. Mahesh Morjaria, EVP Plant Operational Technology at Terabase Energy. Welcome, sir. You can applause Mr. Morjaria. Micro, s'il vous plaît, en régie.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. I appreciate the organizer inviting us, inviting me, sorry about that, to this session. We have got some really exciting set of speakers. The panelists are world experts in their area, and I'm so pleased to have them on this panel. If I can have the first presentation, if you don't mind. There we go. So do we have the, sorry, the, oh, thank you. Okay, so can I Good morning, everyone. Again, this is Mahesh Morjaria. I'm from Terabase, and I'll tell you more about the company later. And some of you may have heard the session from my colleague yesterday, from Amin Barata, and so we'll go from there. So the agenda for this session is to ask the question: hydrogen is viewed as a powerful enabler for decarbonizing the energy systems, and you heard about this continuously throughout the session. It offers a clean, sustainable, and flexible option for overcoming multiple obstacles that stand in the way of a resilient and low carbon economy. So the session we're going to discuss is what are the enablers and barriers that allow us to fully unlock the potential of hydrogen and to ensure a successful and sustainable energy transition. So in particularly, what we are looking for are new innovations that can impact the various stages of hydrogen value chain, from production of hydrogen in the first place, storage of hydrogen, transportation of hydrogen, and ultimately the utilization of hydrogen. Now, the important thing to keep in mind is that cost reduction is an important element for technology leadership. And some of the messages came from this closer. Okay, sorry, I was trying to not be so loud, but okay. Hydrogen is a part of a much bigger energy transition. In fact, IRENA was expecting that it will be about 12% of final energy consumption. Some reports are even saying as high as 22% of final energy consumption from hydrogen. That is really a pretty large number. We're talking about 600 million tons of hydrogen to be produced in 2050. 600 million tons. Just keep that number in mind. 5 terawatt of electrolyzers. We are, if you heard about the projects today, they are in the range of like tens of megawatts. And we're talking about basically 5 terawatts of electrolyzers. Imagine 30% of the electricity that we're going to generate in 2050 is going to for hydrogen production. That is a very large volume. But the more important thing is that in the 2020s, costs are likely to drop sharply with the learning and scale up factors. Now, this is not just a aspiration goal. In fact, if you think about solar, we have reduced solar costs by 90% in a decade. We have reduced wind energy costs previous decade by 90% as well. Battery energy storage cost is coming down at a learning rate of about 20%, which means every time you double the volume, the cost comes down by 20%. So if we apply the similar approaches, we expect that in the case of electrolysis, etc., this would happen. Now, the countries that have abundant low-cost renewable power, including countries like Morocco, is going to benefit a great deal. But more importantly, setting the right priorities of hydrogen use. Can we use hydrogen where it creates the most value to begin with is important. So to reach that goal, which is the goal that you will hear a great deal about, to have 1 cent per kilowatt hour for electricity, clean electricity generated, so that we can then produce at $1 per kilogram of hydrogen, green hydrogen. What's important is economies of scale, which is shown, for example, in the cases of solar and wind. We've been able to, in fact, solar is now 1 terawatt installed in the world. So it is quite an achievement, but we need to do about 15 terawatts more in the next 20 years, and that's 20, 30 years, so it's quite a challenge. Secondly, we think, and we are working as Terabase with digitization and field automation, they are going to lower the power cost to what we want to achieve, 1 cent per kilowatt hour. And also industrialization, co-location, so that you have a cheap hydrogen resource. How do you use that to drive the industry? Electrolyzers, CapEx reduction, and hybridization. What we mean by that, combining both the production of electricity as well as hydrogen generation in a large scale is something that we think is going to help. Now, I am really pleased to have the panelists. I will give a deeper introduction to all of them, having His Excellency Kyung Chung, Ambassador from Korea, Mr. Eiken, Badr Eiken, that many of you already know, Dr. Mark Melina, DOE expert, Mr. Jasper Nerloff, he's a Topsoe CTO, Professor Patrick Hendrick from University Libre de Brussels. I am sorry, I don't speak French, so it's difficult for me. Dr. Javier Sanchez Montero, Mrs. Marina Holgado, and perhaps we'll have Mr. Linus Moffer as well. I'll give you a detailed introduction of each one of them as we go along. Now, the questions we are trying to discuss is what makes the energy transition a technically and economically difficult challenge? Why is hydrogen considered a sustainable way to implement the energy transition? And what are the major barriers to unlock hydrogen's full potential? You heard about hydrogen's potential a great deal from many speakers, and what we are trying to address is what are some of the barriers to make that happen? And how can research and innovation optimize the hydrogen value chain components? Myself, I'm a EVP of Operational Technology at Terabase. My expertise is in both solar and wind energy. as well with First Solar for about a decade, with GE for another decade or so, or 2 decades actually, and have pioneered some of the ways by which utility scale solar have become much more cost effective. Next, we'll have Mr. Badr Aiken. It's a great pleasure to have him. He's the VP of Green Economy Committee at CGAEM, Director General for IRSN. Many of you know the research institute that is doing some of the pioneering work in Morocco. And he was also Director of Integrated Development at MESN, Moroccan Energy Agency for Solar Energy. With that, Mr. Aiken is not there. Okay, he's, sorry, excuse me. Okay, sorry, he had some other engagement and could not make it this time. Next, we have His Excellency Keong Chung. Really pleasure to have you here, Mr. Ambassador. He's the ambassador from the Embassy of the Republic of Korea to the Kingdom of Morocco. He was Director General, Climate, Energy, Environmental, and Scientific Affairs for from 2019 to 2021. And he was also Director of Governance in Global Green Growth Institute 2016 to 19. And he's got a law degree from University of Pennsylvania, as well as Seoul National University. It's a real pleasure to have you. And please, the floor is yours, as they say. You can.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm Keong Chung. It's a great honor to be with the audience who are obviously interested in energy transition, which everyone is talking about. I am here to talk about the hydrogen future for Korea and Morocco. And before I do that, I'd like to, talk about the environment in which both Korea and Morocco are operating. And that is that while we have to achieve net zero to tackle with the climate change, there's another issue, which is energy security, which has become more poignant these days. Many governments and companies are placed in an environment where we have to deal with these both challenges. And so I'm going to talk about how Korea and Morocco can deal with this in both as a government and also as a business operator. So I'm going to ask 2 questions. One is, we have to know our clients and know our competitors, and what can Korea offer in this setting. The reason why I'm asking these questions is that Morocco strives to be a producer of so-called green hydrogen, whereas Korea, already being the leading country in having very, very high demand for fossil fuel, whether we can replace this with something less carbon intensive. So knowing your clients, as we have seen, hydrogen demand outlook is that the hydrogen electrolyzer capacity will increase from the current 200 megawatts to 70 plus gigawatts by 2030, and 18% of final energy demand by 2050. This is a famous figure the McKinsey has outlined. And the retail price of hydrogen now stands at around $10 US per kilogram, but it is expected to come down as much as $1.5 to $3.5 per kg, per kilogram. And many people think that the break-even point for the green hydrogen to be competitive is around $2 US. In Korean case, we are number one country in deployment of hydrogen cars. About 60% of all the hydrogen cars in existence are made in Korea, or even more. That's the latest figure that I saw. And we have, well, because of that, we have been building refueling centers and fuel cells. And so in this setting, we are trying to have the policy priority areas on R&D, infrastructure, mobility, safety, and standardization. So we aim toward the hydrogen economy ecosystem of having the hydrogen as our main energy source. So the clean hydrogen usage from 75% by 2030 to almost 100% by 2050, making it one-third energy mix by 2050. For Japan's part, it's also developing a hydrogen, international hydrogen supply chain. It was the first country to announce national hydrogen strategy in 2017. And also it built the first liquefied hydrogen carrier ship to import hydrogen from Australia. And for the EU, they adopted the hydrogen strategy in 2020 to create a EU hydrogen ecosystem. And also they are aiming to produce 10 million tons of hydrogen as well as to import by 2030. So why I pointed out those three countries, because we are the biggest net importer of any hydrogen energy that the other countries will produce. So for Morocco, it is important to know what the demand landscape looks like. And while Morocco is poised to supply hydrogen to the rest of the world, but Morocco is not the only country. So I made this chart looking at many the cables that I received. So the suppliers would be Australia, Canada, Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, and Chile. So those are the so-called net exporters of hydrogen, and they already have their national strategy in place and projects. But what you have to note is that the hydrogen that these countries are thinking of providing are not just green. They are in combination with blue hydrogens. So for Australia, they are still, well, not giving up the little bit more dirty hydrogen, the gray hydrogen, as part of their, the supply objective. Canada's part, blue hydrogen is in their view. And for Saudi Arabia, they are trying to have a mixed production of both green and blue hydrogen. You have to take a look at Oman. Oman recently had a similar summit like this, and wow, it was an eye-opener. They have now a very concrete project, 40 gigawatts, and now they are building Hyport Duqm projects with 1.3 gigawatts. And they are the first country or the first industry to receive the production certificate of green hydrogen. UAE, well, they are also poised to produce the green ammonia project, but nothing concrete has come up. But there had been some deals signed with some leading hydrogen experts. Chile, both green hydrogen and blue hydrogen are what they're offering. So in this sense, well, as a buyer, a potential buyer of green hydrogen or blue hydrogen, what Korea can offer in this mix are all in the life cycle of hydrogen. So for the production, well, you know, as you know, hydrogen is not a natural resource. It's actually a brain resource. You make hydrogen and from abundant resources, which are water or hydrocarbons. And well, the human ingenuity and investment are key in producing green hydrogen. So in that sense, Korea and Morocco, I mean, Morocco is a little bit different, but countries like Korea and Japan, which are resource poor, but they're innovative, are thinking of producing the hydrogen themselves. So we are both the countries that import, and we are also poised to produce hydrogen. So, so at the moment, we are trying to produce our own hydrogen. By year 50, at least 5 million tons will be produced in Korea. That's in fact the plan. And when it comes to electrolyzing technology itself, well, we have the most efficient or effective oxygen evolution reaction catalysts using manganese, tetra manganese calcium cluster, because the anode part of electrolyzer, I'm not an expert, but uses a lot of iridium and ruthenium. But iridium is one of the most expensive resources in the world, at least $225,000 per kilogram. And there are only 400 tons in existence, mainly in South Africa. So with the annual demand for 7 tons a year, we only have 57 years to use them, and the price is going up. But this new technology that Korea has has a lot of potential. Distribution, liquefaction plant, hydrogen ports, that's something that we are actually thinking of introducing. And also tomorrow at the bilateral Korea-Morocco Hydrogen Forum, we'll be talking more about these new cutting-edge technologies and the infrastructure projects that we have. Pipelines also is very important. For the utilization, we are using hydrogen for mobility, and also for power generation, and also hard to decarbonize sector like cement, steel, petrochemical, and other industrial processes. And of course, we have this international cooperation component in our policy mix. And one accelerating factor that I want to mention is, in fact, the Paris Agreement. The Article 6 Paris Agreement was, in fact, all successfully negotiated finally last year in Glasgow, which enables countries to sell and buy carbons. And with this, Korean companies will be poised to invest not only in our region, but out of our region to have, with this incentive, I mean, of having this market mechanism in place. So that's something that is worth looking at. And I'm actually also thinking of talking with the Moroccan government to come up with the bilateral arrangements with Morocco. So thank you very much for my short presentation.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. So next, we're going to have, and what we're going to do is leave some time for questioning at the last. And so if you want to ask any questions, keep that in your mind, and I'll be happy to take them as we go along. Next, we have Dr. Mark Melina, and we're really pleased to have him. He's a senior analyst at the US Department of Energy from 2020. And he has got expertise, including analysis of hydrogen energy supply chains, electric vehicle charging stations, zero emissions vehicle technologies and markets, and sustainable technology scenarios. So he has done a lot of work in this field. In fact, if you look at his PhD, he has worked on hydrogen infrastructure all the way into 2000 to 2005 timeframe. So really a lot of expertise. And he's going to join us remotely. Mark, are you there? Mark, we cannot hear you, but
maybe we could welcome the other panelists.
Sorry, say that again. We should.
If we don't have him.
Mark, I'll be happy to forward your slides, but we need to be able to hear you. So, is technical difficulties, is that you're trying to say something and we can't hear you, I guess. Mark, okay. Let's, in.
Can you hear me okay now?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, we hear you.
How about
that? Okay,
Okay,
great.
so you can see the presentation, I think, Mark, right?
I can, thank you. And thank you for the introduction.
Okay, please, the floor is yours.
Great. So I'm glad that I could join remotely. I'm a senior analyst with the US Department of Energy, the Hydrogen Fuel Cell Technologies Office. And I should say that the questions for this session are really excellent. We don't have all the answers, but they're definitely questions that we try to address in the systems analysis subprogram within our office. So I'm going to touch on some of the work that we're doing to try and answer these questions. And I also want to point out that I'm working as a embassy science fellow through the State Department with colleagues that are resident to see if some of our analysis tools at DOE can help efforts in Morocco. So if we go to the next slide. So this shows our energy use in the United States. In the pie graph on the left, about a third of our energy is natural gas. You can see that another third is split between nuclear, coal, and renewables. And then the green renewables wedge is broken out there for the different renewable types. And then the other third is for petroleum. So that's our energy use today. And then on the right, we have very ambitious goals, along with a lot of other countries, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So our administration goals are 50% reduction by 2030, and then net zero by 2050. In addition, we have a carbon pollution-free goal for the electricity sector by 2035, which is a midway point on the way to the larger economy-wide goals. So to meet these goals will definitely require all of the technology supported by Department of Energy, and hydrogen plays a big role in that. The next slide, please. So just to touch on some of the goals that we have, cost reduction was emphasized earlier, and I'm just going to emphasize it again here by talking about some of our cost reduction goals for different technology types. So we have fuel cell systems on the left, and then hydrogen supply technologies on the right. So we have production costs for hydrogen, delivery and dispensing costs, onboard storage costs. The red bars show current status for where we see costs today. The orange bars show our goals that we're working towards with our R&D efforts. And then the green dots at the bottom are our long-term ambitious goals to reach full market competitiveness and success in the long term. Those are ambitious goals, and those would only be achieved with both technology, scale-up, commercialization, and advances in R&D. So I'm going to focus a little bit on one of the key ones, which is the hydrogen production cost for clean hydrogen. Go to the next slide. So this is our main program. The Department of Energy has announced several Earth shots, which are ambitious technology programs to achieve R&D success and commercialization. The first one announced was the hydrogen shot. And the tagline for this is 111, which is $1 per 1 kilogram within 1 decade. So within 1 decade would be by 2031. We have other Earth shots that were announced for different technologies as well. If we go to the next slide. So this is a technology neutral goal, but we do see a few key candidates or categories of technologies. So this is a quick overview. I know a lot of studies have been done on this, and we have documentation for how we think we can meet this goal. It's very ambitious, but we think that there are several candidates that could meet it within the next decade. So on the left of this figure is our snapshot of the status and progress that can be made with electrolysis. So you can see the dollar per kilogram status today, $5 to $7, declining over time as you move out to 2026 and 2031 to meet the $1 per kilogram. As was mentioned earlier, a lot of this is the technology itself, but a lot of it is also the electricity grid, the integration and decarbonizing the grid as well to bring down the cost of low carbon electricity. Then in the middle are the thermal conversion pathways. As was mentioned, conversion of fossil resources with carbon capture, utilization, and storage is one of the pathways being pursued by the United States and other countries. And we see this as an opportunity to reach the same dollar per kilogram goal for clean hydrogen. Those are the two near-term options, but we also have advanced pathways, I should say, especially direct solar conversion, where we see the costs today being relatively high, but these technologies can be brought to scale and improve R&D, and we think that those are candidates for achieving this goal as well. If we go to the next slide. So to reach this ambitious cost reduction goal for production, we have a lot of different mechanisms in place to try and move things forward. We had our annual merit review meeting earlier this month, where we reviewed all the major R&D projects for Department of Energy for the hydrogen program. And during that meeting, we announced the Hydrogen Shot Incubator Prize. So on the left, you can see this is sort of an open competition to collect the best concepts to achieve this cost reduction goal, with prizes as the incentive to move the technology forward. So that incubator prize is one of our new mechanisms to try and advance the technology. And then on the right, we have a lot of our other more traditional R&D and technology demonstration mechanisms to also bring the technology forward, to go through the different TRL levels, which are shown in tiers here, going from the bottom to higher up to higher TRL levels. So that includes funding awards, industry consortia, demonstration projects. We have funding about 8.5 billion authorized for our Hydrogen Hubs program, which will include hydrogen production as well as the rest of the hydrogen supply chain and end use. And then we also have a loan guarantee office to secure loans for clean technologies. So all of these will be required to help meet this production cost goal. Go to the next slide. This is a schematic of what we see as being important markets over time as we approach this goal. So you see the status today, which markets are being unlocked as costs decline, and then moving to the right across this figure, as we approach $2 and eventually $1, additional markets will open up. And some of these markets are unique in that hydrogen is one of the only really promising scalable technologies to reduce carbon in these sectors. So different roadmaps and strategies have been released over time. This is one of the early figures for the US strategy roadmap of how we see the production costs related to these markets and decarbonization over time. If we move, I think I might have one more slide. So that's a quick summary of our activities focusing on the hydrogen production cost to try and answer some of the questions for this session. I can leave the slide here for a second just to raise awareness of some of these different resources and activities that we have at the US Department of Energy. I don't need to talk through all of these, but hopefully these are familiar to people. And if not, there's some links here, and you can always go to our website to learn more about the hydrogen program at DOE. So I think that's all I have. So thank you very much.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mark. I really appreciate it. I think many of you may know that Department of Energy plays a very important role. In fact, in 2010, they had set a goal called Sunshot, which was to reduce cost of solar to $1 per watt of utility scale. And it was reached instead of 2020, it was reached in 2018 by industry. So having this kind of programs is essential in reaching some of the goals that we have for this clean energy transition. So really appreciate that. Thanks for joining us. And next, we have Dr. Jesper Nerlof. He's a CTO of Topsoe, and if you were in the session this morning, you heard that the Danish ambassador mentioned that company, and it is one of the top-notch companies that is working in this field. Dr. Nerlof has been a VP of Topsoe R&D from 2005. He has had quite a number of positions at Topsoe in the R&D field starting from '98. And really great to have him. He's also an academic by heart, I guess, and at Technical University of Denmark, where he shares his expertise with students, and that's a wonderful thing. And he has a PhD from University of Copenhagen. With that, welcome.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's really a pleasure to be here. And what I will do over the next few minutes is to give, let's say, the Topsoe perspective on what challenges we are really facing from a technology point of view in realizing, let's say, the Power-to-X energy transition. And I'll give you, let's say, our view on, let's say, how we try to solve these barriers that are out there. Even though there has been an introduction to Topsoe also yesterday and also earlier today, then let me just say a few things that illustrate what we do at Topsoe. We've been around for 80 years, and what we really have done over all that time is to provide our customers with solutions. Let's say, given they have an energy source, whether that is renewable electricity, biomass, or fossil fuels, then we provide technology solutions that allow them to produce hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, or clean fuels. We've done that for decades, but obviously now, let's say with the energy transition, these technologies are becoming much more relevant to the society as such. Our position today is that you can say half of the hydrogen that are produced worldwide today in form of ammonia and hydrogen is produced with our technologies and our catalysts. We are also, let's say, in the clean fuel space, the global leader. If you tank your car with ultra low sulfur diesel, more than half of that has been produced via our technologies. On top of that, we are also driving, for instance, in fuels, the renewable diesel transition, having about 80% market share in producing in technology related to renewable fuels globally. So that's what we do, and what we are now aiming at, and what we'll talk about today, is how we, as Topsoe, also want to take that leadership on us, also in the transition of Power-to-X. And even though we'll talk about ammonia in this session or hydrogen in this session, I will use the power to ammonia as an example of what is it really the barriers are, because hydrogen, as we see it, an intermediate, and you need to convert that to, let's say, the final products, which could be ammonia or fuels or what you have, right? And obviously ammonia, which we also talked about yesterday, is also a potential very strong energy carrier for transporting hydrogen, let's say, for instance, from Morocco to Europe. If you look at power to ammonia, then you can say that the renewable electricity is really a scalable solution today. If you look at air separation, which you also need to produce the ammonia, that's also certainly something that's done in world scale. Ammonia synthesis, certainly also. So what you're really missing in this scheme is electrolysis technology. Having an efficient and scalable electrolysis technology is imperative for Power to X to really succeed. On top of that, when you want to make ammonia from power, then if you just put down the building blocks I put on this slide, then you also need hydrogen storage. And what this scheme also lacks is really the flexible operation that you will have due to the fluctuating nature of your energy source. And of course, you also need to take care of grid balance and so on. And then finally, ammonia is, as you said, an energy carrier. And how do you utilize ammonia effectively as such? So those are really the barriers that I will address and that we see as sort of the technical issues or technology issues that you need to solve. And I would say the electrolysis technology is really, you can say, the area where you can make the most difference. Because as shown here, if you want to make, for instance, ammonia from electricity via alkaline electrolysis, then you will spend around 10 megawatt hour per ton of ammonia that you produce. As you see, that's even more than the amount of energy you use in the traditional technologies that are employed today in the traditional space. However, by advancing electrolysis technologies, you can reduce that significantly, as also indicated here. And at Topsøe, we are working and industrializing the solid oxide electrolysis technology that will enable you to reduce your energy consumption in production of, for instance, ammonia by 25%. That means that for a given amount of renewable energy, you are actually able to produce 30% more hydrogen with the same amount of power. The solid oxide electrolysis technology has not been seen as mature as compared to, let's say, PEM and alkaline, but it actually, we are getting there, and that's what I'm also saying here, but and obviously it contains a lot of advantages. It is the highest efficient electrolysis technology that you can have. Unlike, for instance, PEM, it does not contain any noble metals. We were just hearing about the iridium issue, for instance, in PEM, which is a serious issue in order to obtain world scale scalability of PEM. On the maturity side, we are at Topsøe now at a place where we are will make a 500 megawatt production operational in 2024 of SOEC, which is a huge step for that technology going forward. And that plant will be expandable to several gigawatts as the time comes and the market evolves. And finally, on top of that, apart from water electrolysis, if you really want to go, let's say, on, for instance, e-fuels and so on, then you also need to utilize the CO2. And they are combining CO2 electrolysis and water electrolysis is really an effective way of producing e-fuels going forward. So you also have that option with the scalable SOEC technology. That was, let's say, on efficiency and the scalability. Then I mentioned a few other barriers on flexibility and on hydrogen storage and also on the ammonia as an energy carrier. At Topsøe, we have also developed a technology that actually takes care of these elements. We are in the making of building a 10 megawatt plant in Denmark together with some partners, which will allow full flexible operation, meaning that you can vary instantly your load from 10 to 100% depending on the impact from the natural resources. The plant will have no hydrogen storage, meaning that it will work fully dynamically and directly store the energy as ammonia, and will also demonstrate the grid balancing issue. This will be a technology that can employ all electrolysis technology, whether it's alkaline, PEM, or solid oxide. So in that sense, you can say here we are actually addressing the remaining parts of the challenges. Let's say the final one being how do we utilize ammonia as an energy carrier effectively? Here, the key to this is ammonia cracking. So if you want to produce ammonia here in Morocco, transport it to Europe, and then you utilize the ammonia, carry it, the hydrogen there, and then utilize the ammonia as hydrogen in Europe, for instance. The ammonia cracking technology is one that we at Topsoe have worked with for also several decades. We have running plants that are cracking producing around 500 tons of hydrogen on a daily basis. So it's really, again, a scalable existing technology. Again, here, efficiency is key. You need to not spend excessive amount of energy to produce, to do this cracking. And of course, you also, let's say, want to do it as CO2 neutral as possible. We have various options here, as you see, that we can basically produce it with about up to 95–97% energy efficiency, depending on the heating source that you use for those purposes. So with that, I hope I've shown to you that there are some barriers to overcome in the power to ammonia area and the power to X area in general, but that actually there are also, let's say, companies as ours that are providing the solutions so that we can actually make the clean energy both efficient, more affordable, and more available for everyone. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It's great to see so many different technological approaches that are being tried out, as well as shown to be working. And I'm sure we'll see even more advances as technology scales up as well. So thank you. Next, we have Professor Patrick Hendrick, and is a professor at the University Libre de Brussels, I guess. And he's also an invited professor at KU Leuven, and from 2007. And he likes to mention that he was part of the Royal Army Air Force, right? And he is really proud of that particular fact as well. And he's going to talk about some of the transportation of hydrogen as a way of addressing some of the barriers and enablers. Thank you.
Thank you. So we need to push on what? Yeah, just the green one. So good afternoon to everybody. So we have heard speaking a lot about the massive increase we need to reach in hydrogen production. So let's say 2 orders of magnitude compared to what we are producing today. So more than 100 times more than what we are producing today. And we have heard also that this value chain with production, transportation, storage uses is quite large. And if you look at each of them, they are coming with a lot of different solutions, and all these solutions with a lot of parameters that have not so much been discussed during the different presentations today. And I have taken the option of asking, let's say, 4 questions related to these parameters. For example, we have heard the DoD speaking about thermal conversion methods in order to produce hydrogen. We have heard a lot of people speaking about, let's say, green production of hydrogen. Both methods could be classified as low CO2 emission production ways of hydrogen, but they are so different from each other in terms of hydrogen purity, for example. And it's extremely interesting to look at this hydrogen purity, because depending on the third pillar of the value chain, which is the users, you have users that are requesting hydrogen purity and a lot of others that are not requesting hydrogen purity. And this is impacting a lot the organization you can make of all this value chain? There are so many questions to be answered outside of taking each of these aspects of the value chain independently. In Europe, we are speaking a lot about, in large cities, what we call LEZ, low emission zones. So in all cities, you have low emission zones, large emission zones, where diesel engines and gasoline engine will be forbidden or are already forbidden today. And so you will need to replace them by battery electric vehicles. But if you look at the problem of buses, for example, so you have buses there of Van Oel on the left, on the right bottom, right top corner. These buses, a lot of them, they cannot be just using batteries. They need to move to fuel cells, and fuel cells that needs a high purity of hydrogen. The same for garbage trucks, for example. They are operated in these low emission zones. It's impossible to use them with batteries. Even for these garbage trucks, you need to move to 700 bar storage tanks of hydrogen. 350 tanks like in buses are not enough. And so this purity of hydrogen is really a question that is, let's say, of course, known by everybody, but not so much discussed. And I wanted to put that on the table if we want to discuss further down. We also have not to forget that if we receive hydrogen from abroad, for example, from Morocco, Morocco coming through pipelines under the Mediterranean Sea, going to Spain and so on, what will guarantee the purity of this hydrogen and this green aspect of hydrogen? It will need to be certified to the user in Europe. So how will we certify that this hydrogen is green at a certain purity of 99.998%? And this is what you need to have when using fuel cells. The second question I have put on the table is the problem of which hydrogen. So of course we speak a lot about gaseous hydrogen. There are a lot of different gaseous hydrogens depending on the delivery pressure, for example. We have heard in cars, so Hyundai, for example, famous with 350 bars. Other trucks, at 700 bar, some buses at 350 bars, but it is not delivered at this pressure, because in the pipelines, you will never have 350 bar or 700 bar. So you will need to decide at the level of the site where you are receiving this hydrogen, how are you increasing the pressure to 900 bar, for example, in the hydrogen refilling station for 700 bar, or 450 bar for a 350 bar user. And also related to that, if you discuss with people making buses today, they are almost convinced that one day gaseous hydrogen will not be enough. If you need to travel over 1,000 or 2,000 kilometers with coaches at 120, 130 kilometers per hour. Most probably, due to the stability of the vehicle, they will need to move to liquid hydrogen. But liquid hydrogen, except in aviation today, we don't speak so much about liquid hydrogen. And also, the question, if you move to liquid hydrogen, is how are you transporting liquid hydrogen? We have some examples here of Ballard and also the Japanese ship that is transporting liquid hydrogen. At which cost? This is remaining a big question mark. I've just, in order to be a bit provocative, written that transporting liquid hydrogen would be something like 15 times more expensive than transporting green ammonia that is transported at atmospheric, roughly speaking, atmospheric pressure and atmospheric temperature. And even if you take Ariane 5, for example, in Kourou, they are not transporting liquid hydrogen from Europe to Kourou. This is using methanol that is produced in one of the islands in Tobago that is nearby. So transporting liquid hydrogen is a big question. And so the problem of transporting hydrogen in general is a big question. Another problem that is not so much discussed, this is why are we not going to a larger decentralized production of hydrogen? If you consider that we have seen the PEC technology that has been mentioned by the DoD, the photoelectrolysis, the direct splitting of water by solar energy. So you could imagine to have hundreds of thousands of houses equipped with that. So producing a few kilos of hydrogen for themselves, so each day of the year. So why is it not a solution that we could use in order to balance the grid, for example, to balance the electricity grid? So today is something that is not so much discussed. And this is entering also in the question of cross-sector coupling. Cross-sector coupling will be with hydrogen. It has, I think, not been mentioned yet today, a key problem linking the hydrogen route, the electricity route, and the heat route that you will need to have if we have a very large use of hydrogen. And finally, and it will be the shortest explanation I will have, in all these routes, in all these questions, we speak about hydrogen at high pressure, up to 900 bar. How are we compressing this hydrogen? There are solutions today, but a very small number of manufacturers. A lot of techniques are not developed yet in order to compress hydrogen. And this is really a point where an effort, a huge effort must be made in the very near future. And you see the cost that is related to this high pressure hydrogen and the compression of hydrogen. This is not a point to be neglected. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. It's so great to see that there are quite a few challenges that we have to worry about in transportation, in how we utilize the hydrogen and so forth. And so we're going to sort of continue on that theme. Oops, I have to go back here. Sorry about that. Before I introduce the next panelist. Oops. Okay. Never mind. Professor, here we go. I had your presentation, but I think it's here. So, Dr. Javier Sanchez Montero, welcome. He's a senior scientist at Institute of Construction Science at CSIC, and he's a chair of RILEM technical committee. He's got several PhD students working with him on electrochemistry, science, and technology. And he comes with a degree in chemical engineering from University of Salamanca, Spain, 1995 to 2001. Thank you. Here's your presentation.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Okay, I will talk briefly about the interaction with the hydrogen with the steels. Yesterday, a colleague talked about the electrolyzers. So I approach and give some challenge about the behavior of these components, like, for example, pipes or vessels in contact with hydrogen at higher pressures. So the main aim is to control this element, the hydrogen, that is the smaller element of we know. So this is a challenge that we need to approach for different scales, from the atomic scale to the component scale. And there is also a multi-physics problem, because we need different material, different physics to respond to this challenge. So I try to move from the atomic to the component behavior. So I will go very briefly. I try to give you an state of the art, but it's very, very short. So from atomic scale, we know very well what's the behavior of the hydrogen into the steels. We can control, we can compute what's the barriers into the steel of this hydrogen in order to control or in order to difficult the diffusion of hydrogen into the steel. We can perform calculation also what's the stress that produce the hydrogen into the steels. And we can also compute phonons and other behaviors that we can move to the next scales. Because if we move to the next scale, it's a micro scale, it's necessary to take into account what's the behavior, what is the metallographic behavior of the steel. So we need to take into account the plasticity, the role of the vacancy of the defects, like ground boundaries, and also the precipitates, so the composition at the end of the steels. At this scale, we have several tools to compute, like a kinetic Monte Carlo or molecular dynamics, that we can control or just predict what's the behavior of our material. If we move forward to the micro scale, we can also measure different behavior of different physics. We can compute, we can control, we can measure the diffusion of the hydrogen in your steels. So there is some standards, ISO and HTM standards, and you can compute and, you can observe or measure the diffusion of hydrogen through your steel. Because this is very important in order to control or you contain all the hydrogen into the vessels, for example, and depends a lot of the composition of the steels and also the pressure. At microscale level, we can include this behavior about the diffusion, and also we can compute the mechanical behavior of our steel, because it's a multiphysical and correlative problem. The diffusion follows the stress gradient in our material, and also the hydrogen decrease the fracture energy of the material. So it's a very correlated problem, but nowadays we can compute also the propagation of cracks and so on in our components. Also, and it's necessary to check these results, these tests, these these models with a real test. So it's necessary to perform real tests, and in this scale, the most usual test is the low stirring rate test. We can also measure afterward the content of hydrogen into the steel with thermal desorption test. And in this kind of test, we can control or we can measure the influence of the composition, the metallographic composition of the steel, the heat treatment, welds, residual stress, hydrogen pressure during, for example, or cathodic potential that we can apply during this kind of test. Depends of our material and the pressure, we have different behaviors that we can observe and we can introduce in our calculation. So just to finish, this is a very brief overview about the material behavior that depends of the environment and the stress and the mechanical and stress condition. So all of variables are correlated and depends also in durability. And one of the challenge is also to make sensors, or just we can monitorize the service life of this material. So it's necessary to improve some specific sensor for this material, for example. Another key point that is for the future is we can talk about the corrosion of different environments. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, can we go back to the charts again, please? Yeah. Oops, not starting. Keep going for some time. Okay. So we just heard about some of the challenges of hydrogen as a material and how it's going to impact, especially in transportation and other parts. And so at the end of this session, I'm going to ask all of you, and just keep this in mind. Imagine that we are sitting here in 2030 and we have identified lots of things that are going in the right direction and so many barriers as well. What do you think the 2030 will look like if you were to be sitting in the same panel, and what problems would we have already resolved and which ones you think might be there as well? But with that in mind, I'll have our next panelist, Mrs. Marina Holgaro. We're really pleased to have her. She's a green hydrogen specialist, even more important for this session. Technical Secretariat Coordinator in IEA Hydrogen. Some of the material that IEA presents in this is excellent. She has been an R&D project engineer with AREMA Energia. And she has done a lot of work in hydrogen technology consulting, so we're really pleased to have her here. She has a master's in renewable energy, fuel cells and hydrogen from University International Menendez Pelayo. I guess I don't mind my pronunciation, but welcome. Thank you.
Does this work? Yes. Great. Thank you very much for the organizers for having me, and thank you very much for the chairman for such a nice introduction. So I will begin my presentation, hopefully. Yeah. Talking about the hydrogen TCP and why is it the key to international R&D collaboration. And what is the hydrogen TCP? TCP is short for Technology Collaboration Program. It is the longest running international initiative on hydrogen. It was established by the International Energy Agency in 1977. And we are currently 33 members, 24 countries, plus 7 sponsors, the European Commission and UNIDO. You see here all the flags of our member countries. Morocco is not yet here, but we will change that very soon. So I'm very happy to have Morocco soon on board. And what do we do? What we do is we work with TASC. TASC are working groups of international experts from our member countries and companies that work together on solving challenges of the whole hydrogen value chain. Now we have 3 ongoing tasks. One is kicking, and the 4th one is kicking off in June next week. And we have around 10 more tasks in definition. We will talk about that in a while. This means that we have a huge network of experts for the whole hydrogen value chain working on solving challenges by international R&D collaboration. And we have been hearing about challenges, and we will say that the main challenge here is scaling up hydrogen production now, right? And we can see our goals versus our real situation now. So what are our goals? The net zero emission 2050X scenario. So we want to reach 1.5 degrees increase, right? So we estimate for that, as our chairman said at the beginning of the session, we would need between 400 and 800 million tons of hydrogen production per year. What does this mean? We need to install between 4,000 and 5,000 gigawatt electrolyzers. That is 160 gigawatts per year. And that it's a lot, because if we look at our numbers, the current portfolio of projects that has been announced to become in operation for the next decade, so for 2030, is 28 gigawatts. So only 30 gigawatts per year instead of the 160 gigawatts that we would need. To be on track, we will need to launch, if you see here on the right side, you will see some graphs from the International, the Hydrogen Council, sorry, and the International Renewable Energies Agency, IRENA. and you will see the main biggest projects that are announced and in operation now. So to be on track, we would need to launch every year for the next 30 years, 2.5 high deals, that is the biggest announced project, or we will need to launch 11 ocean renewable or open green energy hubs. So that is quite a lot. So we have an impressive portfolio of projects, that is true, but we are still with a pace too slow and we are subject to many hurdles. For example, what are these main challenges? We have different areas to tackle. We have areas related to cost. We still have to improve cost in technology parts such as catalyst, or reduce the cost of hydrogen production, or also transport, the storage and distribution. We need to improve technology, of course. We need to scale up manufacturing of electrolyzers and so other technologies. We have to improve TRL for some technologies, and we have to still work on soft safety challenges. What about resources? We need to talk about critical materials, and we need to talk about water consumption. And what about the framework and cross-cutting issues? We need to work on standards, guarantees of origin, certification. We have to have dedicated policies and framework for hydrogen, and we need to access to capital, investors, and trust. And for that, what do we need? We need national strategies, but not just strategies and big numbers and great goals. We also need action plans that can be tracked. We need public support, especially in the early years. We need research, development, and innovation, of course, and we need international cooperation. And why the Hydrogen Technology Cooperation Program will play a key role? Well, we have been doing this for over 40 years now. We deliver high-value technical results to the hydrogen community. We have had more than 40 successful tasks, and we have been historically focused on R&D, and now changing, of course, to industry deployment. The results and fundings are always available in the Hydrogen TCP website, so everyone can learn from what we do. We have the capability to mobilize hundreds of experts from around the world with a permanent effort for 3-4 years at a time. And the Hydrogen TCP covers the whole hydrogen value chain. And when we can do it, we have other TCPs to collaborate with. We have advanced fuels TCP, greenhouse gases TCP, photovoltaics TCP, wind TCP, and many more. We have a 2022 strategic activity that is a TRL assessment in collaboration with the International Energy Agency, very interesting. And the Hydrogen TCP also can be the technical or operational branch to other international initiatives that can propose new topics for task, or countries can propose new tasks for the executive committee consideration. So I will put this here, but if you want more information, you can always find me. This is the task portfolio status that we have today. So we have 3 open tasks on storage of hydrogen in hybrids. We have analysis and modeling and underground hydrogen storage. And as I said, next week, the new task on safety regulation codes and standards is kicking off. We are also working on developing new tasks on hydrogen certification, natural hydrogen, hydrogen export value chains, offshore hydrogen production, renewable hydrogen, hydrogen from nuclear energy, and hydrogen in industry. Okay, so we also do, apart from task is our core activity, but we do document reviewing for other organizations, of course, IEA, other TCPs, or other international groups. And we have the TRL assessment, the strategic activity that I just mentioned, but we also just launched this Monday, we also just launched this Monday, the Hydrogen TCP Awards. We are looking for outstanding projects that are coupling electrolysis with wind, solar, or nuclear. And we are awarding them with the Hydrogen TCP Award of Excellence. So I encourage you to go to our website, to follow us in social media, and learn more about our task of Hydrogen TCP Awards. And if you have any more doubts, I will be more than happy to solve them. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. As you can see, this was quite a comprehensive framework that they have provided, identifying all the different aspects of hydrogen that we need to be able to address. So we have perhaps about 5 more minutes. And so with that in mind, how about if we, first of all, give everybody a round of applause. I'm sure you all agree they've done an excellent job of presenting the material on the technological side and other aspects as well. With that in mind, maybe I can have you, each one of you, take a minute or so and sort of describe as to what's the key message that you want to leave the audience with. So I'll start in the order in which you guys presented, if that's okay. If you don't mind.
Okay, well, after listening to you and also preparing for this panel discussion today, well, many of the literature that I read points that hydrogen remains a niche energy source, and in my view, it will remain so until, for a foreseeable future, until 2030. As you know, 2030 is also the year when Paris Agreement will run its course. So it's not it's a decade of action for many countries to reduce their carbon emission. But will hydrogen be the main pillar to drive countries in the path of net zero? I'm not too sure. It all depends on innovation and cost reduction, as many of the panelists says. But at the same time, because it is also an energy that is very, very tech intensive energy, many countries are poised to produce their own. So in that sense, because of this energy security portion, hydrogen is going to be important.
Thank
but
you.
For it to play a more important role, I'm not too sure.
Thank you.
I don't know if Mark is available on the.
Yeah, you can give us the Mark through internet. I don't know if he's online, but we can hear you, sir. In a few words, the main
I'm
message.
here. Can you hear me okay?
Hi, Mark.
Mr. Mark here.
Yes, can you hear
Few
me okay?
words, the main message of this panel, please.
Sure. I think the presentations so far have really reviewed a lot of issues that are really important. The ones I think that are unique in the next few years for hydrogen are really the scale-up issues. So we've been doing R&D for a long time, and that's really going to be a different effort now. Scaling up the technologies, and I would say accelerating the approval and project, execution process. Things have to happen much more quickly to reach our decarbonization goals in terms of project approval, execution, and that has to happen at the same time as the scale up in the technology and the manufacturing. So I think those are going to have to accelerate much more quickly to meet our goals. So I want to emphasize those.
So thanks a lot, Mark. So it's going to be a niche product unless we can scale it up as well. Perhaps you can comment on the technology aspects.
Yeah, but I would say that hydrogen will play a much more significant role in our society in 2030 than it does today, and even when we go 40 and 50, even more so. You can then argue in what, and we also had some input to it in the panel here. I mean, what form will it be in, right? I mean, you have electrolysis based, you can have based on carbon sequestration based, and utilizing other kinds of sources, right? So for me, if you talk about the transformation we are talking about here on the green hydrogen, then you need to have incentivized on the products so that it can actually happen. I mean, comparing to what is happening in the US on the carbon capture sequestration incentives, which actually moves the whole blue transition in the US. And I think you need to get CO2 reduction incentive schemes in other economies for this to work. And then we need the scaling, but that will also come when the incentives are there. You need that combination in order to succeed.
So it's like it's a somewhat vicious circle, is that if we have the incentives, then scaling up issues will also get resolved. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, there is a point that has not been so often discussed. This is the problem of certification and permitting with hydrogen installations. Today, so this is, of course, it must be extremely strict, but today it's not specific for hydrogen. And we need to have a hydrogen-specific procedures, set of procedures and certification rules. This is not existing today. We are following ATEX, and we need to have something that is specific for hydrogen. It will speed up and ease a lot and reduce the cost of all installations that will be done. It must really be a major focus point from my point of view.
Yeah, so setting up certification standards and other standards, and do you see the board? I'm assuming that many international bodies are taking this on as well, or they are not, then we better be working with that. With that, Professor?
Yeah, from the materials point of view, the main challenge is to optimize the material that we will use in all the hydrogen chain. There is several tools, but it's necessary to perform easy tests that we can perform in most of all laboratories in order to characterize our materials. And I thought that this is quite available these days. Yeah.
Thank you. So in fact, you guys are putting a whole framework together. And so one of the questions that I wanted to ask you is that you heard from here a variety of views. Is that captured in some ways of kinds of things that you have in your framework? Perhaps you can comment on that.
You mean the capture of CO2?
No, the different issues, standardization.
Yeah, of course. We have, if you remember my last slide, that is the task portfolio status. We have been working on all that has been said. We have a new task and definition on hydrogen certification. We have a new task and definition as well on renewable hydrogen production to compare all the different routes to renewable hydrogen production and see what makes sense in which case. So we are tackling all this, also underground hydrogen storage for massive storage of hydrogen, safety regulations, goals and standards. So we are tackling all this. And if you find a specific topic that we are not doing, you can always send us an email and we will make sure to do it. And I forgot to say that last year we closed the task on Power-to-X, and you will find the final report and the roadmap to solve the challenges on Power-to-X on our website is all published. So I encourage you to go and see it.
Okay, so with that, maybe it's because it's kind of lunchtime, I would close the session. And thank you all. Please.
Before we close the session, if you don't mind, Mr. Mojaria, we have really 2 short questions. That means 2 short answers. Okay. Also in the audience. First person will speak for the first question. No question in the audience. See.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Madam.
Go ahead.
Please introduce yourself, ask your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fatima Alaoui from Maghreban Forum pour l'environnement et le développement, la maison de l'écologie de Marrakech. On aimerait que vous puissiez nous faire participer à l'appel de Marrakech sur l'hydrogène naturel, parce que le Maroc regorge d'hydrogène naturel qu'on n'exploite pas. Alors, on voudrait faire un appel à l'ensemble des participants pour qu'ils puissent nous soutenir à lancer l'appel sur l'hydrogène libre à exploiter au Maroc, comme il est exploité au Mali, comme il est exploité dans d'autres pays africains. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Madame. Maybe the second question, and then if someone wants to answer, not other question. Okay, l'hydrogène, l'appel de Marrakech. Who can answer? A call from Marrakech to explore all the resources here in Morocco of green hydrogen. Could we launch a call to the world to explore the resources here
If I
in
may,
Morocco?
if I may, we have a task and definition on natural hydrogen or native hydrogen. They are now working on defining the work plan and what they will do, pilot projects, what they need. So we want to put in contact experts from natural gas reservoirs, and they know how to find them. And we also want to put in contact experts on geology and hydrogen and how hydrogen interacts with bacteria underground and so on and so forth. So our task organizer for this is Eric Gaucher. And as I said, that the good thing for the hydrogen TCP is once the country becomes a member, every expert, every company, every research center, university from that country can participate in our task. And as Morocco is going to be a member very soon, this would be the great place to launch these kind of activities and have pilot projects and test this kind of technology that will be revolutionary here in Morocco and the whole world.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. And thanks a lot for sharing your views, your expertise. This was a terrific panel. I really appreciate it. Another round of applause for the panelists, please. Thank you.
Thank you to everyone. I invite you to come and stand up on the stage for the picture, please. Merci à l'audience pour son attention, pour son implication. On va faire un petit break, lunch break right now, and we will meet again at 2 p.m. please. Thank you. On se retrouve à 14h, juste après le déjeuner. Merci et à tout à l'heure.